Okay, so today we're talking about absolute value. And absolute value really talks about the distance from zero. That's what it means. So for example, let's say you had a number line and you had a little person. Let's call her Janny. So Janny, she's got crazy hair. Anyways, Janny went walking one day and she went 5 spaces. So she could walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces on the number line to the right, or she could walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces on the number line to the left, which would give you -5. So from where she starts at 0, if she walked 5 spaces, she could end up at both +5 and -5. So -5 and +5 are 5 spaces away from 0. So that's what absolute value is, talking about how far away each of our numbers are from 0, whether they're negative numbers or positive numbers. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to look at a few inequalities. We just did inequalities. So we're going to compare these numbers. So this says the absolute value of -5 has a relationship with the absolute value of -7. So we're going to write what the absolute value is, so how far away they are from 0. -5 is 5 spaces from 0, and -7 is 7 spaces from 0. So the absolute value of 5 versus the absolute value of 7. Our alligator is going to eat 7 because 7 is a greater number. Okay, and then we could do the same thing like on number 4 with the 13s. The absolute value of -13 is +13. It's 13 spaces away from 0. And the absolute value of +13 is +13 because it's 13 spaces away from 0. Neither of these numbers is greater than the other because they are in fact equal. So we're going to use an equal sign. Okay, let's see. Oh, it says to find the value of the expression. So basically you're going to just get rid of the absolute value signs by seeing how far they are from absolute value, and then use the extra negative signs if you have one to combine with the original. So for example, on number 8, it asks for a negative of the absolute value of -11. So if we're thinking about this from the inside out, the absolute value of -11 is 11. It's 11 spaces from 0. But we have this little negative that we need to put on the outside. So now it just wants us to rewrite this, but without parentheses. So this is -11. That's our answer. Okay, the negative sign just gets attached to the absolute value of -11, which is +11. On number 12, you actually have a little expression that we can simplify, but since there's a 0, there's not going to be too much happening here. The absolute value of 0 is 0. It's 0 spaces from itself. And then here we have a subtraction sign. Then we need to figure out the absolute value of -5. So -5 is 5 spaces away from 0. Now we have 0 minus 5, which is -5 as an answer. Okay. Now on number 16, we're trying to figure out what the two numbers are that when you get the absolute value of them, they would both be equal to 9. So two numbers that are 9 spaces from 0. So -9 and +9 are two numbers that are 9 spaces away from 0. Here, this problem says, I want a negative answer of an absolute value of a number that will get us to 5. So since we need 5 in our answer, we're going to be thinking that the number that could go into this spot would be either 5 or -5. So that's what we're checking. Okay, so if you put and figure out the absolute value of 5, you would have 5, and then we have this negative that we need to drop down. -5 is not equal to 5, so 5 cannot be an answer. All right, now we want to try the absolute value of -5. So if we put -5, the absolute value of -5 is 5, and then we drop down our negative as well. Again, here, -5 is not equal to a +5, so that does not work either. So this problem right here is not possible. Okay, and then, hold on. All right. So now we're going to solve this problem using our absolute value numbers. So what we need to do is we need to get the absolute value all by itself first. So we are going to do the opposite of +1, which is subtract 1 on each side. And we have the absolute value of y equals 13. Now we can figure out what the two numbers are that go into our y to make this absolute value equal to 13. So if you have positive 13 and negative 13, they are 13 spaces away from 0, so the absolute value of each of these would be 13. So here what you're trying to do is get the absolute value all by itself, and then you're going to break it up into the two answers that could be possible for how far they are away from 0.